what is the relationship between Sunnah and Hadith? So kind of think of it like Lego pieces that build a structure. So the Hadith is an individual piece of Lego. But when you put that Lego with other pieces of Lego of similar culture, similar color, similar shape, that they fit together in a way that build the structure, then you built the Sunnah. And therefore you find the mistake that happens of the juhala who have not studied the tradition is that they will look at individual pieces of Lego and assume it is the actual building. So they will take one hadith, and it is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, mentioned by the Prophet ﷺ. On one occasion, subhanAllah, I was sitting with one of my teachers in Egypt. He had just finished Khutbat al-Jumu'ah. And subhanAllah, he's been teaching the Sahih of Al-Imam al-Bukhari for decades. And after the Salah, we were travelers. And after the Salah, leading the prayer, he was making the dhikr. SubhanAllah, alhamdulillah, wa la. A man came, big beard, mashallah, and he said, Sheikh, I'm surprised. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. It's reported from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم that in his safar كان لا يسبح. In his travels, he did not make tasbih. The Sheikh said, اقعد يا ابني, sit. انت بتشتغل ايه? What's your job? He said, I don't know, I can't remember, pharmacist or engineer or something. He said, يا ابني سيب العلم لأهله واشتغل بالأدوية. My son, leave the knowledge for its people and stay with your drugs. Don't worry about this hadith of the, it's obvious you haven't studied. لا يسبح means he would not pray the sunnah prayers, because the concept of salah is tasbih. So when the Prophet ﷺ, it's reported in his travel, he would not make tasbih. It's not he wouldn't say subhanallah, subhanallah after salah. It meant he wouldn't stand up and pray 2 rak'ah after dhuhr. He wouldn't pray the 2 rak'ah after maghrib, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It wasn't of his habit, regularity in sunnah. And therefore you see a hadith that is taken as a Lego block that doesn't make up a foundation in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, its fahm is maqloob and misunderstood. Another man, he came, wallahi, in front of my eyes. He came and he said, Sheikh, do we have to eat a din? Is it a must that we eat the fat of the meat? قال لي يا ابني, who eats the fat of the meat? Who ingests just fat? He goes, wallahi, by Allah. He said, wallahi, nobody eats meat like the fat. You eat the meat, you trim the fat. He said, subhanallah, my friend, he tells me of Sahih al-Bukhari that the Prophet ﷺ would never reject fat when it's offered to him. So the Sheikh started laughing. قال له يا ابني, الدهن مش دهن. It's the perfume. The dih. They used to refer to perfume as something you paste yourself with. And the word dihn and duhn, if you don't read the accent correctly, it's the same word, same letters. So this man, his friend, had read Sahih al-Bukhari thinking the Prophet never rejected eating fat, rather than never rejected receiving perfume, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the first editions of Riyadh al-Salihin that was translated. And this is one of the problems with at times translation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honor the ulama of the past, those who have expended their efforts in bringing us the sunnah in our languages. But I remember I was standing in the masjid and Riyadh al-Salihin was there, we were waiting for the salah, and I was just looking through, and I remember opening, and it was a chapter about the food that the Prophet ﷺ enjoyed, and the English was on one side, the Arabic was on one side, and the English, it said the Prophet ﷺ used to love the curry of meat. And I said, Allahu Akbar, curry in Medina? Like, I love the curry, but in Medina, استغرب. I said, let me look at the Arabic. And it said, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يحب المرق. The Prophet used to love the water, the stew that meat is cooked in. But if you come from a particular region in the world, the thing you cook the stew in is curry. So it could be in my country, I use one word, in other countries. So when the Sheikh translated it into English, the word he used was curry, right? Which is what he was familiar that you cook the meat in. So all of this is something that's important for us to understand, that the source that we refer to as being wahi is not the translations. Even with the book of Allah Azza wa Jal, the Quran, Kalamullah, it is what is revealed from the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, captured within our community and retained and received by the Prophet ﷺ through Jibreel. It is collected in the chests of people, but it is not the translations. That is the assumption a human being made of what they understood from the word of Allah at a given period in time. So the relationship between hadith and sunnah is that the hadith is the building block and the sunnah is the structure that you receive after its complete analysis. We move on, inshallah. The authority of the sunnah, the hujjiyah of the sunnah, that the sunnah is something that is a hujjah, it is an evidence and a proof. And when we say that the sunnah is an evidence of a proof, you look at the types of statements of the Prophet ﷺ. Some of them are very clear statements. Alhamdulillah, when we've come and visited here, one of the things that we were very careful with is that we want to visit those who are entombed and those who are buried in accordance to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. That we don't have this concept where people have gone into ghulu at times, where they assume that it's not our dua that is of benefit, but rather that we're there to ask of things from other people, right? And you will see later on today when we go towards the burial place, ghafarallahu lah, of some of the imams of the past, that there are people who go to ghulu. In one place here in Bukhara, there's a tree where it said that its root system touches the body of a buried alim of the past. So you'll see people come to that tree, jahl. People, I want to fall pregnant. I want my daughter to marry. I want my husband to find a job. I have debt. And they will come to the tree, they will take from its leaf, they will eat it, they will kiss it, they will hug it, do things that are not known from our tradition as Muslims. So we hear though that the Prophet ﷺ said, previously I used to ask you not to visit the graves, but now, أَلَا فَزُرُوهَا, go now, I want you to visit, تُذَكِّرُكُمُ الْآخِرَةِ, it reminds you of your own mortality. So we come in that capacity in the fulfillment of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and we shun that which is not in his tradition. Number two, there are statements of the Prophet ﷺ that aren't clear in that sense, but they are implied. Things that the Prophet ﷺ said, but that they require our ulama to give us clarity about. And finally, there are principles, usul, that can be extracted from the words of the Prophet ﷺ. So when the Prophet ﷺ says, the one who has nothing good to say, فَلْيَصْمُتْ, let them be quiet. It becomes a principle in our tradition. It's a word of the Prophet ﷺ, but now becomes an asl. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ asl. It becomes a principle, a maximum of our law, a maximum of our ethics and ethos and code. There are different types of approvals that the Prophet ﷺ would make that were not declarations made by him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Something that was a common act done with the Prophet and the Sahaba radwanullahi alayhim. It would be uncommon that the Sahaba would do something and you find it reported from so many Sahaba and the Prophet hasn't spoken about ﷺ, that the Prophet ﷺ did not approve of it. It would be impossible that all the Sahaba do something and the Prophet ﷺ has not said yes or no about it. Even if it's not reported directly, he said yes or no, we assume that it would have been approved. Or in opposite, something we see that the Sahaba stopped doing and we don't find a riwayah of the Prophet saying don't do it, but we see that the assumption has to be in that sense.